Once upon a time, in Owando community, there lived a very successful young man named Obinna. He's popularly known by family and friends as the real deal. Obinna studied computer programming at the university, and upon graduation, he entered the business line, building a techno business from the ground up. Obinna was not just any businessman, but he was visionary, creating apps vigorously and putting it out there. Obinna remembers vividly the days of his little beginning, how much sacrifices he made when he first began. He often works for days on end without even going outside. He sleeps in the office for days and denies himself a lot of luxury. Soon, he transformed his small tech startup into a multi-billion naira enterprise. Despite his immense wealth, Obi remained grounded, always remembering his humble beginnings in a modest village. Obi's journey to success was not an easy one. Abandoned by his mother when he was only a month old, his grandmother Nnedi and his father Udoka embraced his great intellectual ability as though that is their only ticket to wealth. They instilled in him the value of hard work, integrity, and compassion. When he was older and learned from his mates the story of how he was abandoned by his mother because of money, that even fueled his resolve to work hard even more. Thankfully, his company, Obi Technovate, excelled in cutting-edge technology. This made him a lot of money. Obi was committed to his hometown of Owando, for he will not forget in a hurry how his father and his grandmother struggled to put him through school. He did community projects, built schools, gave scholarships to the underprivileged, and supported local businesses. The people of Owando admired his generosity and humility. He was often seen in his community, engaging with people and genuinely offering solutions. His approachable nature and genuine care for others made him a very beloved figure. As the general election drew close, the people of Owando bought Obi a form. It is time for us to get our own fair share of good governance, as they all agreed to vote for Obi, popularly known as the real deal. The real deal is the man, chanted the Owando Progressive Youth Union on the day they all agreed to ask him to come out as their next senator. At first, the real deal was reluctant, but being convinced that this is an opportunity for higher service, he accepted their request and went on to campaign. His campaign was centered around education, social amenities, and economic advancement. At the polls during the election, he won Chief Rowland and Chief Humphrey in a landslide victory to become the youngest man to become the senator of Owando Senatorial District, only at 38. Senator Obi was sworn in, after which he was back at Owando community for a Thanksgiving party. Many of his family and friends were lodged in his mansions for days. All were well accommodated by the real deal, as there was a lot to eat and drink, all except for Egodi, his own biological mother. When it comes to the 65-year-old Egodi, the real deal has but one rule. She's never to sleep over in any of his mansions, no matter what, even though she is his biological mother. Obinna, though humble and benevolent, yet will not allow his mother to live in any of the three mansions which he had built. Some 38 years ago, Egodi, Obi's mother, was young, beautiful, and married. Her husband's name is Udoka, and Udoka was the only son of Nnedi. Udoka, being an only son, married his wife Egodi at a very young age, and together they had Obinna, nicknamed the Real Deal, who is now a senator. As at the time Obinna was born, Egodi was living with her husband Udoka and her mother-in-law at a 2-bedroom apartment house. While her mother-in-law had one room, Egodi and her husband Udoka had one room to themselves. They also had a central modest sitting room where they welcomed visitors. Soon, Egodi was discontent with their standard of living and will often complain to her husband and mother-in-law. "Don't worry, Ego," her mother-in-law would say. "Everything will be all right. My son have already started getting blocks bit by bit, and soon enough, he will be able to build a double bungalow so that everyone will have enough space." "But what about a car?" Egodi queried. "Is it not other men that are buying cars for their wife?" At this, Udoka sparked with anger. "You saw me walking with my 2 legs, oh, and you agreed to marry me. Or did I force you to marry me?" he asked. Egodi was not happy at all with their standard of living and will often quarrel with her husband. "You wretched fool," she will call him. "Can't you see other men building comfortable mansions for their wives and even their concubines, buying them Vokes, and you are here calling yourself a man? See, let me tell you, as long as I can feed 3 square meals a day and provide you and my child with your basic needs, I am not anywhere near wretched or poor," Udoka will reply her. So on we go Udoka and Egodi's exchange of words. So one hot afternoon, Egodi was on her way back from the market when a car pulled over by her side. The driver of the car wind down the glasses and said, "Hello, beautiful. Hop inside. Let me give you a lift. The sun is too much, and a beautiful woman like you ought not to be trekking under the sun," Chief Omenoko said with a wink. It was Chief Omenoko, the local government chairman. As she entered the car, Chief Omenoko wound up his glasses and Egodi took a deep breath as the chilling air conditioner started cooling her body. Chief Omenoko smiled and said, "Young woman, you look so beautiful and you are well loaded both at the back and at the front. If you don't mind, I would like to know you more." Egodi did not think twice about it. This is the opportunity she had been praying for. So she quickly smiled as Chief continued with his many sweet words.
"Where is your house? Let me come and marry you and pamper you as my 4th wife,"
he said.
"See opportunity, oh,"
Egodi thought. "You know how we do it now," interrupted Chief Omenoko. "Once I marry you, I'll build a very big mansion for you and also buy you a car. As for your monthly upkeep and arrears, it will run in millions of naira," continued Chief Omenoko. Egodi could hardly hold her excitement. She gave Chief the address of her parents' house and he drove her there. Egodi also concealed the fact that she was married and even have a month-old baby from Chief Omenoko. Chief Omenoko drove her to her house and told her he will come to see her people the next day. Back at Udoka's house, Udoka and his mother Nnedi has been worried that Egodi is not yet back from the market. They waited for her till evening, and by this time, the little baby Obinna has sucked all his hand and will not stop crying as he is still taking breast milk. Confused and bewildered, Nnedi carried his little grandson Obinna to Egodi's house to look for her. At this time, Egodi had connived with his parents that she's going to marry Chief Omenoko for good, at least to change their fortune. By the time Nnedi reached Egodi's house with her grandson Obinna, she was quite ready for them. She simply stood at the door and pointed her finger towards the back direction. "Just take your turn and go back to your house," she commanded. "I am done with your son." Nnedi tried to put the pieces of the puzzle together. "How can you not come back home? Don't you know that you are still breastfeeding a month-old baby?" she asked. "Can't you understand what I'm saying?" Egodi snapped. "I am done with your son and all that has to do with him, including his little child Obinna. Since he cannot provide the things I want and make me look like other women, let me find my way. The earlier the better." Nnedi stood there, dumbfounded with his little grandson Obinna. "Are you mad, Egodi, or has something come over you?" she said. "We are talking about this little child who has not eaten from afternoon till this evening. And you are saying another thing. Are you meaning to say that you won't breastfeed him?" she asked. At this, Egodi clasped her hands together, opening her eyes widely, and said, "You and your son, you go and breastfeed him. I said I am done. Can't this woman understand simple English?" It was then that Nnedi saw that the tone of the music has changed. She therefore decided to stoop low to conquer. "My son might have wronged you," she said. "But what about this innocent baby? This innocent baby has done nothing wrong to you. Please take him and breastfeed him until he is weaned. I'm going to be bringing you everything you need every week. Please, Ego, don't do this to this baby," Nnedi pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Egodi closed the door against her, leaving her outside the house. Nnedi stood there outside with her grandson Obinna, surprised and confused and crying at the same time. The next day, Nnedi was at Egodi's house with her grandson, kneeling down and pleading for her to take him and breastfeed him before her breast milk would go sour. But all her pleas went on deaf ear. This baby needs to be breastfed now so that he can be smart. "Oh, you want a smart grandson, but you don't have money, Okwaya." "Okwalanoge," she said. By this time, Nnedi has taken enough. She remembered some of the children whose mother died immediately after childbirth. They still survived, she thought, so she got up and dusted her knees and went home with her grandson. Later that weekend, one of her friends came to tell her of how Chief Omenoko married Egodi in a grand style, gifting her a mansion and a car. Nnedi was heartbroken, but gathered herself together to nurse her grandson, who is only but a month old at the time. She started giving him pap and other baby formula, but it was not easy for the little Obinna. He will cry as a child who has been maltreated, and Nnedi will sing songs to him. "You are the real deal, you are the real deal, you are the real deal. Time shall tell my grandson which is the real deal, whether it's their silver, their gold, their houses, their cars, or you. You are the real deal." Nnedi will sing this song to little Obinna, and Obinna will stop crying and listen to his grandmother. So he grew up, and family and friends who sang the song for him at infancy started calling him the real deal. Soon, many forgot that his real name is Obinna, as the real deal literally took over his name. Obi grew up into a very intelligent and obedient boy. He was indebted to all his teachers in school because of his great intelligence. One day, when he was in basic 3, he had a quarrel with one of his classmates, Efuna. Efuna said, "Is it because your grandmother is hyping you and calling you the real deal? Let me tell you, you are not any real deal. You are the abandoned son of a longer-throat mother," he shouted. "She abandoned you and married a man as old as her grandfather because she's a longer-throat," he shouted at him. "In fact, you are the longer-throat son of a longer-throat mother," Efuna continued. So Obinna was already 8 years old when he heard this, and on reaching home that day, he asked his grandmother, "Is it true that my mother abandoned me as a baby to go and marry a wealthy, rich old man?" he asked. "It's because my classmates have been calling me the longer-throat son of a longer-throat mother." "Shh," Ned quickly replied. "It's not true. You are my child and my real deal," she assured him, "and I love you so much." But there is not much that Ned could do to protect his grandson from the real story. He soon had it all from the bullies in his school. They even showed him his mother's house when they would pass by her house. And they even showed him his mother, who drives past them in her car while they trek back from school. Soon, Obinna grew up and decided he would study computer programming at the university. Egodi, on the other hand, was not concerned about Obinna. "If God is really angry with me and my actions, why will he still give me 3 more sons from Chief Omenuko, along with all the enjoyment and good life?" she thought. Years went by, and Obi had studied to become a computer programmer, had his own company, and became a multi-billionaire and subsequently a senator, while Chief Omenuko retired as the local government chairman, and a few years later he died. Soon, Egodi could not maintain her car again as she sold it. Things became really tough for her and her 3 sons. The mansion that Chief Omenuko built for her, that once stood out, soon became dilapidated. The wind came and blew some of her roofs away, but she had no money to repair them. As she battled with all this, she began to hear news of Obinna's ascent to wealth, and slowly but quietly, she started hatching plans of coming back. First, she came along, claiming that her bride price was not returned to her family, and so this is her rightful place, she said. At this, Udoka took her by her hand and dragged her outside their gate and bolted it, warning her never to come back to their house again. Later, she came back, but this time she was sober and started pleading for forgiveness. Nnedi was the first to forgive her and started pleading for others to also forgive her too. I mean, God has compensated us by making my grandson the real deal. So we must forgive her, pleaded Nnedi. Soon, they all made up with Egodi, and she was so happy to be forgiven. Then came her last request, which is to come back and live in one of the mansions which her son Obinna had built. Though Obinna provided her with her needs and paid her bills, including her medical bills, but this one thing he refused to do, to allow Egodi come back to live in one of the mansions he had built. In one of the days, Egodi was at his gate with all her luggages, crying and pleading for him to take him into one of his mansions. "It will never happen," shouted Obinna. "Go back to your husband's house. My father is married and I don't want you to live here, period. You can't eat your cake now and have it. So there is no place for you here." Obinna personally instructed one of his drivers to take her back to her husband's house. Egodi kept on coming back with this her one request, and Obinna kept on turning it down. Though he provided her needs and paid her bills, he made it clear to her that she has no place anymore in his father's house. So, friends, do you think Obinna actually forgave his mother completely? Or do you think he is wrong in refusing her request to come over and live in one of his mansions? Please share your thoughts with us on the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed our stories. Stay tuned for more wonderful stories only on African Tales by Oma. I love you so much. Bye for now.